Hi, my name's John and welcome to my Metro 6R4 build. And if you haven't seen this before, what it actually is a Porsche Boxster chassis, as you can see by the wheels and the brakes, with a Metro shell sat on top and a Metro 6R4 body kit on it. And if you want to find out how we got this far, you can look at some of the earlier episodes. What we did in those is we proved that this is going to work in some form, and now we just need to make it work. So it's time to get on with the actual graft of the thing. Now, I was able to get some parts here. I've got some headlights. I did have to buy an extra one to be able to get this passenger side one, but it's very difficult to get. Got a grille and it is broken in the corner, but I'll be able to fix that. And I was able to get a headlight panel. Now this here, I would say the chances of me getting one of these for the other side is practically impossible. So what I'll have to do is use my very basic metalworking skills and tools to make a wrap or a reverse of this for the other side. I also need to get a slam panel that goes between the two and a front panel that goes underneath here. So we've still a few parts to get there. I need to get some radiators because every time I start it leaks some coolant out, which is not ideal. And in the last episode, some people commented about these doors and changing the pivot point of the hinge. Now I'm aware of that and I have a plan for this, but we'll need to get to those in the next few episodes, and hopefully that's going to work out. If not, we have other options anyway. We did mention about the roll cage that's going to go inside of this pillar section here. I have been able to find a guy who can roll the 35mm pipe, which is it's not a regular roll cage size, but he can't do it until next month, and I don't want to cut any more out of this car for the time being, for it to sit for a while. So we're not going to tackle that yet. But what we do have is everything for the back of the car, and while I've never really done anything of this nature before, I have done a few restorations, and what I find is that you need to start somewhere. And what I'm basically going to do is look at only that part, and basically I'm going to ignore the rest of it, and I'm just going to work my way forward till the whole thing's done. And I find if you try and look at the whole thing as a big job, it's going to get a bit overwhelming, and it's probably going to be very difficult to complete it. But the reality is this is only several hundred small jobs, and what we're going to do is start right about here. A couple of people pointed out in the last video that this is actually a later shaped Metro, and that is true, but the main difference is the front end of it, and the front end is not there anymore. And the only other difference is that this filler cap is in the wrong position. It's normally down here on an earlier shaped Metro, and that really doesn't matter to us. So essentially it's the same thing. It's no different, and the body kit doesn't fit any different way. But what is different is this here. The tailgate, if we can get it on, is specific to the later car, and it's not the same shape as the earlier one. But this is what we've got, and I don't know where I would get an earlier shaped tailgate locally. I could probably get one in England, but posting it would probably cost more than twice the price of what the tailgate would be. So we've got this one here, and we're going to try and use it. So my plan is to cut it down around here for the time being and remove this outer skin. It actually, as you can see, it's actually dented. Somebody drove into it when it was outside, but that's not going to matter. And we'll cut it in around here as well. And then what we'll try and do is to fit this over the top of it. So basically the old tailgate is going to be the structure, and it's going to look like the Metro 6R4 tailgate. At least that's the plan anyway. But we'll not really know till we've got to cut apart to see how far away it is. I got the outer section cut off this, and I did have a quick try of this outer skin onto the boot lid, but the small flange that I left here wasn't letting it go on, so I came back and took it off, and all I did was just grind it along this edge here, and that's enough to split the skins, and it comes off easily. And I've taken the flange off around here completely, but I just left a bit on to show you here. Like, I don't normally use a spot welder on these. It's kind of a waste of time, because you just grind the head of the weld down and stick a chisel in here and it splits, and it's a lot quicker. But it's a bit difficult to hold this tailgate up to show you, so I'm going to stick a couple of screws in it and we'll take a look at it. So yeah, rather unsurprisingly, it's quite a terrible fit. Now, I think part of the problem is that this is not meant to have a proper full frame inside. It's meant to have like a tube frame, and it could be partly because this tailgate is for the later Metro, but what I've had to do here is cut this flange off and then a panel beat this up. So hopefully this is going to allow the tailgate to go up here, and I've cut the slice in here and I've tapped this down, and we'll give it another go here, try it now. Probably seems a little bit trivial doing this tailgate at the minute, but as you can see, it lines up with the wheel arch, and without the tailgate in place we can't really set this and move forward, you know, so it's quite important. And it's coming in quite well. I would say this gap is actually quite good for a Metro 6R4. Up here it's a little bit too tight here and a bit too wide here, and also over here it's the gap isn't even, it's going to need sorted out. But on the inside where we folded this piece of metal, you know, it's coming in quite well. And now there is a gap down this side, and that's obviously because the newer shape window must obviously be wider. It's also presumably shorter, as you can see there, so we'll have to do something about that and put a piece into the side of it. Down here, this bit here is not fitting right because the shape of the newer shape light is more rounded, and so it's filing in here, so we'll need to cut a piece out of this. But we'll take the tailgate off and we'll have a look at it then. So this will give you a better idea of what we're up against here. As you can see, what I was saying, this line has been folded and that's quite nice. I need to put a piece in here, and I don't know what way I'm going to finish that. I suppose it's going to work out what way this ends up. And here, this is where the light is found. You can see this shape here. This is to suit the earlier shape of Metro because the shells are the same, and then they've obviously altered the shape of the car here, and it's got more rounded. So I'll need to try and slice this and fold this back in some way and try and, listen, I want to try and do it with the least amount of metalwork I can. And here, there's a gap at the bottom, so I'm going to try and fold this edge in. This piece here, now this piece here has to stay exactly where it is because that's where the seal goes, but the rest of it we can work with. So we'll have a go at this here now. Yeah, considering we're working with what we've got here, I think this is going to be okay. I've got this bottom folded and it meets the outer skin now, and I've cut a slice in it here, and I've bent it here and here, and listen, I am far from the best metalworker, and if you came to see a metalworking master class, you're probably going to be very disappointed, but this is going to work out okay, you know. Put a bit in it here, and this is going to be bonded on anyway, so a bit of seam sealer in here, and that'll look pretty good, I think. Considering the way they normally look. And so if we can get this bit down here sorted and a piece put in this, I think it's going to be fine. So yeah, this bit's came in nice enough for my liking. It probably looks like this bit's not straight. The fiberglass hasn't been cut straight, but yeah, it's going to fit up all right. Just the same as this other side. So the main problem is going to be here, and I don't really know what way I'm going to tackle this. I think I'll have to cut a bit out of this and then push this down, put a piece in, and then a separate piece on the corner. That's the thinking at the minute. I'm sort of making this up as I go. But as you can see here, because we've weakened it so much, it's starting to kink, and that's from me trying to twist this whole bootlet into shape to make it fit better, but I can sort that out later on. And I have welded a piece in here. I welded it from the other side, and I still need to clean it up and stuff, but I had to put this in because it was just starting to get so flexible, you know. But I'll cut a bit out of this here, and we'll play it by ear and see what we can come up with. So hopefully you can see what I've done here. All I did was cut a half moon shaped piece out of it here and hit it with a hammer and basically bent it into shape. So it now follows from there right round to here. So all I really need to do now, I think, is make a little piece of metal. It comes around here to about here, and then I'm going to make another one, a very thin piece that's going to come along here and into here. I might put a fold on the end of it to meet up with this, but I don't really think I need to. I'll see what way it works out. So we'll talk about how I've done this, and you can see how rough it is at the minute, and you can compare it to it at the end. All I've done here for the corner is I got a wee bit of steel and I basically folded it around by hand, and it was actually longer. Okay, so it came out to here, and I welded it on here, well, tacked it here and here, and that allowed me to then push it in here and tacked it, and then I could panel beat the shape and I cut it down, and so now it's quite a decent fit. So all I need to do now is to weld it around here and along there. This bit doesn't fit very well, but because it's in behind it, I can't really grab it or anything. In fact, these are like just bits of scrap, and I've just tacked these on so that once I put the piece in behind, I could use a pair of pliers and pull this towards me and then tack it in place. And I've done that 3 times. So what I'm going to do now is to take this outer skin off, and I'm going to weld this up, and I'm going to weld this in from behind, and I need to put another little piece in here. It's a little bit too short here, and I'll cut away the excess material because it doesn't need to be that long, but obviously with where it is now, it's easier to put it on like this and trim it afterwards from the other side. Well, I've went ahead and finished this bootlet off here, and you can have a look at it and tell me what you think in the comments. So on this side it's still in bare metal, and what I did with this is I seam welded it up around the top, and I've tack welded it along here, and this is really just to prevent warping this piece. It really doesn't need it to be any more structural than that. And down here I've seam welded it and I've ground it down. This is really just to make it look a bit better because MIG weld is not that awfully attractive looking, and there'll be plenty of other MIG welding to look at in this project, so you can stick around for that. It does look like there's a bit more of a gap here, but it's actually that the fiberglass is a bit thicker here, and this is all going to be seamed in, you know, with a bit of sealer. Over here on this side I've actually went a wee bit further, and I've skimmed a wee bit of isopon into this radius here, and this is really just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like when it's finished. I have put a coat of aerosol primer on it, but I will take this off and redo this properly once it comes time to paint it. But let's look at it. Considering I didn't really know what way I was going to go about this at the start, I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out, and we've really only used, you know, a welder, a grinder, and a few hammers, and we've got there with it. So, you know, this sort of work's definitely doable. I did make a time lapse of doing this piece here, but I filmed it in real time. It's actually 11 minutes long, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to shorten it down, but all I really done is I took a bit of steel and held it over the end of the bench, and topped it here and put a radius on it, and it was just as simple as that. But now that that's done, since we're starting at the back, it's time to move on to these bumper brackets. I want to try and fit these bumper brackets to the back of this, and the reason being is that I want to use them to fit a crossbar along the back of here, and there's no getting away from the fact that we've definitely cut a good bit of crumple zone off the back of this car. And a couple of people asked me about the strength of it, and the reality is there is no structural analysis or anything like that done for this car, nor will there be. The reason being is we're building the Metro 6R4 here, and it's not a Porsche Boxster anymore. Compared to a Porsche Boxster, yeah, I've probably reduced the safety of it, but in a Metro 6R4, basically you have nothing between the engine and the outside except for a bit of fiberglass and the exhaust silencer. And here we've got the fiberglass tailgate, a steel structured tailgate, a back panel, there'll be a crash bar, and it's also got a boot floor. But I guess safety is a relative thing. You know, some people would ride a motorbike, and I wouldn't get on one. But it's the sort of thing where if you're not happy driving a 150 odd mile an hour Metro, you know, it's just not for you, you know, but it is what it is. But onto this here. Now, I've trimmed the back of this here, and I'd done this a while ago, and if we could go back in time, I would make this a bit longer and I would fold the lip on the edge of it. I don't really like the way it looks. It's very unfinished looking. There's enough meat to weld it together, but it's not long enough for me, like, and it's not detailed enough. So what I'm going to do is, whenever I put this together, I'm going to get a piece of metal folded, and I'm going to slide it in between the two skins, like so, and put it there. I think that'd be a nice detail to finish it. I don't really like this lump that is here, and I might try and put a slice in this and flatten this out so that I can put this folded edge completely the whole way along there, and there will be a folded edge along here. I'm going to fill up these holes, weld them up, and I'll weld these holes up, and as I say, I'm going to start trimming this down, and I'm basically going to see what way it fits the best. Now the bumper on the tailgate is actually higher than this, so it's slightly up high, so I really need to try and fit this as high as possible, but the plan is to trim this down and slide it on, and it'll be, eventually welded around here. But we're just going to have to cut it and see what happens here. Well, I've been working away at the back of this, and I've pretty much got it sorted out, so you can have a look at it and see what you think. Now, I've left this in a very raw state so that you can see what we're dealing with, and this is pretty typical of your MIG weld. And this material is very thin. It's either 0.5 or 0.6 that I could measure, and what you're trying to do here is get enough penetration into the material without blowing holes in it. So basically what you're doing is you're pulling the trigger, you're getting your weld pool going, and then before it gets too hot and blows a hole in it, you come off the trigger, and then you watch the weld cool, and then you pull the trigger again, and you come off it and on and off, and you work your way around it till the weld's done. Now, any idea that you have that you're going to set the welder up in such a way where you can just pull the trigger and just buzz around it, it's just not happening, and you just burn a hole through it. Either that, or you'd have to set it so low that you wouldn't get any penetration in it. But basically this is what we're dealing with, and once this is ground down, this will be perfect, and it does have good penetration that I can see from the back of it. If it was done with a TIG welder, it would probably be tidier, but I haven't got one now, so this is what we're dealing with. Now, this piece here was originally, I tried to mount it higher to line up with the bumper in the tailgate, and I didn't like it because it was going to mean that if there was an accident, it was going to push into the body shell rather than the chassis leg, and I don't really think that would be right, and I just wasn't happy with it. I was also going to have to cut a slice in the chassis leg and bend it up to fill the gap. And you probably think this whole area is pretty rough looking, so I went ahead and finished this other side here, and all I've basically done here is ground these welds down and put a coat of aerosol primer on it. But as you can see, it does look a lot better, and I finished it off with a folded piece in the bottom and another piece over here. Now this piece here, what I've done is I actually cut it and I elongated it by 30mm, and that now means that it comes higher up into the body shell, which is where I needed it, but also goes down into the bottom of the chassis leg, and that's going to mean in the case of an accident, it's going to still be safe enough that it's going to push into the chassis leg, which is really where you need it to be going, But I would say once this is welded up and a bit of seam sealer put on this should pretty much look like it came from the factory this way, which is sort of what I'm trying to aim for with this project. I know it's going to get more difficult as we get further towards the front, but this bit's, I'm happy enough with this. Now this piece here does need filled in, and I was thinking of welding it up and filling it, but a friend of mine does 3D printing, and he mentioned that he might be able to do some stuff, so I'm going to see if he can do something with this here to make a plastic piece that goes in. Either that, or I can see if I can get a piece of plastic CNC machined with some detail in it. And I think a few details like that really do lift the project, so it's worth a bit of expense to do that. I have done some work off camera here, and it's basically because it'd be pretty boring watching me work with a grinder for 4 hours. But I have fitted up the pieces on the inside and you know, matched it into the wheel arches. So this piece here was originally cut out, so I just now need to weld this in whenever I'm putting the shell on. And I've done the bit up at the front too, and also over on this side. But it's pretty much should look like factory once it's done. And in this was done earlier, but when I fitted up the shell, but in under here you can see the gap. Well, actually there's no gap between the inner wheel arch and the quarter panel. So this is basically ready to weld together. Now I might consider putting a flange on that piece, but at the minute I would say it's pretty much ready to weld together. And then when I had the grinder out, I fitted up this piece. So you could pretty much say the back third of this car is pretty much sorted out. Now I also did say this wasn't going to be a problem to us, but it does need welded up, and the material is very, very thin, so it's probably going to warp to some degree. And the only thing is, there is some things that I've sort of picked up over the years that might minimize that, and we'll have to try those out. And also I'm going to need to now get onto the door, which is going to be the big problem, but we'll have to leave that until next time.